Dr. Jones, you're an epidemiologist. I understand your critique of racism and structural racism, but you understand viruses. You understand public health. What can we be doing more of in the Black community? I understand that we got all these structural problems, stuff like that, but that's been going on for a long time. What would you, if you could wave a magic wand and make Black folk do something different, what should we be doing right now to protect ourselves?
Well, we need to make sure that we don't get sick, because once we get sick, we're going to get it worse, and then they're going to not value us, and they're not going to give us the ventilators if it's a choice between us and all. But the testing, so we need to, I'm going to say that it's not just us. I'm going to say that the government has a responsibility to protect the bus drivers, to protect the post office people and all like that. That part of the problem is not just that we have more high blood pressure and all. The problem is that we're more exposed, right? But we're not recognized to be part of the essential workforce. We're also trying to go to work because we don't have that background wealth. So we need more of that money and all to make it possible for more people to shelter in place. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to give the government a pass, because we have the Congresswoman right here. So what we need to do is be demanding more of that. We need to demand, as has been said before, that the resources go to the Black communities. If we think that there's a higher problem there, we have to provide resources according to need. But I want to also talk about testing, the testing strategy.
Wrap on texting, and I'm going to bring in some more voices, but wrap on testing. We need that.
Yes, the testing that we're doing right now, when we just test people who have symptoms, is not the right kind of testing. That's going to confirm a diagnosis, but it's not going to be able to help us change the course of the pandemic. What we need to do is test. Yes. So what we need to do, as opposed to just having a medical care kind of testing to confirm a diagnosis, do they have it or not? We need to have a public health strategy for testing. So we need to test everybody who wants to test, who has symptoms, and we have to test a large proportion, a sample of people who do not have symptoms. That will let us know how much disease is there, which will let us know where we have to have the medical resources in 2 weeks. Because what we see today is a 2-week-old picture, right? It will also help us find those asymptomatic spreaders, don't know they have it, passing it around, who are infected. We'll ask them to isolate, and we'll also ask them, who did you talk to this past week? We will find their contacts, isolate them. With the public health strategy of testing, we're not just documenting it, we can change the course of this pandemic.
Listen, it's so good to have people like you in the community that, as I say, have been educated on some of the stuff that we don't know about. And we appreciate you and your voice.
Okay, that was excellent information. As P. Diddy said, Sean Combs, we needed to hear that. And she touched on something that I think we as citizens of this country have not been getting that information from our leaders. I mean, the administration is on the TV every night doing press conferences talking about things that really are not as relevant as that information right there. Testing, and more testing. Now, all this information has its place in the big picture. The situation will not disappear overnight, and yet if we stop doing our due diligence, we will not make the necessary progress we need to improve our social economic situation. So with these clips, I wanted to show you what was being said and really snippets and so forth. And as you see, there's been a repeated message throughout in regards to testing, in regards to the situation at hand, why individuals are getting it more than other individuals, and so forth and so on. But Kamara Jones makes a very good point that we have to do more testing because some people are asymptomatic. And if those individuals are getting on public transportation and mixing and mingling with with individuals who are susceptible to this virus, they're going to keep spreading it. And that's where the numbers go up. because asymptomatic people continue to walk around. And how do you know if you're asymptomatic or not? You won't know until you're tested. There is no other way around it. There is no other way for you to self-diagnose in this particular case, because the body has a way, obviously, of harboring different things in different ways with different people. So, as I showed you before, a couple of websites in regards to how to stay in touch with your government, and I'm going to touch on another video here. I want to welcome you to my channel. I know I kind of jumped into things, but I do want to welcome you to my channel. I'm Jewel, and thank you for continuing to watch this series. I hope you're gaining a lot of information from it. And so let's take a moment and let's zoom in and check out this next clip by Ayanna Pressley, who is representative in our current administration.
Black folks, we are resilient, but we are not invincible. And so the three things that I've been focused on is, first, early on, I, along with other colleagues, pushed Health and Human Services to begin to collect racial and ethnic data in real time, to disaggregate it and to report it publicly. Now, every time we start talking about race, someone will accuse us of playing the race card. What they call a race card, scientists call a data sheet. We need to have this data. We are already collecting age and gender, so we need the race and ethnicity data. Now, yes, anecdotally, we know that we're being hit hardest by this. And we see Black men being hit the hardest by this, anecdotally. But what we need is the data to directly inform how those resources are coordinated, marshaled, and dedicated, right? So the data informs that. So what I need from folks, Diddy was looking for action items. We need for you to demand that your governor, until the feds give standard mandated guidance for all states to do this, to collect this data.
All right. So I wanted to pause right there because she touched on something I just previously talked about in the last video, which is understanding who your government representation is. Who are the who's who with your local government, your Congress, your senators. Those are the individuals that she's talking about right now in the video. She's talking about you making demand upon your local government, who's going to make demand upon the federal government. And I was curious, when she's talking about this particular demand, who that would filter through, and that would filter up to the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, they are the data collection and reporting agency of the federal government, and they are right here in my backyard of Georgia. They're right here, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so there should be really for Atlanteans no excuse why we can't get some collection when we have the federal agency that collects data, and have them begin the collection of this data ASAP. And so it says right here, in order for the CDC to collect and use public health service data, the NNDSS staff works closely with the state and local health departments, experts from CDC programs with prevention and control responsibilities, and partners such as the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists, CSTE. So that's, obviously you can see here there's a lot right here to read. But as I read through this, what I understand is the CDC is the grand poobah, and each state has a health department. So the direction will come from the CDC and filter into the states, probably through the government office and your local committees, like I showed you on the previous site, that will take this to the next level of testing. But the CDC has to design this. They have to put these procedures in place. They have to create a standard operation procedure, something I learned in the military at SOP, standard operation procedures. They should already have it. And if they don't have it, if they're not doing it, then they've fallen down on the job for some reason. And if the standard operating procedures don't exist or existed and were removed, they need to be reinstated. And again, like I said before, the next administration that comes in and says, oh, we don't need this, hold on. Before we start ripping out cords, we need to evaluate what is here, why it's in place, and why this new administration believes it's no longer existent. And most of the time it's about money. Oh, let's slice up the budget. Not enough money to go around. So we got to cut corners, cut, chop, chop, chop. Well, as we're seeing right now, they got money to burn. They are issuing trillion upon trillions of dollars to stop this economy from sinking into the abyss. Now, up until this issue began, this economy had been on a bull run for 11 years. Everything was toasty good. Job creation was going up as unemployment rates were going down. Well, within a month, 11 years worth of traction has been erased within a month. The highest unemployment rate of people filing for unemployment surpassed the 1982 record, which was like 600,000 people. And we are 10 times, 100 times past that. Our first 6 million people filed for unemployment. So I got off a little off track, but my point to this is there obviously was not a plan in place. There obviously was not a standard operating procedure to deal with disasters, to deal with issues. Now, this isn't the first time we've dealt with a health crisis. HIV, HBN1, SARS, Ebola, okay? Those have all been health crises. Those are all, they didn't turn into a pandemic, but they have been health crisis, which has caused something to affect people start dying, so forth, so on. So, no, they were not as big as this, yet those should have been opportunities for our government to get in place. So let's finish watching this right here, and I'll come back and comment some more.
It will let us know if there's equitable access to testing and treatment. Now, the other thing I want to say is this. Every time I bring up race in our healthcare system, some people think that we are casting aspersions against the heroes that are patient-facing on the front line. We are talking about structural racism that is so embedded that when Black folks show up at the hospital presenting with symptoms, they are being turned away. Why? Because they have been taught that we have higher thresholds for pain. It's why we have a Black maternal mortality crisis. So the reality is that because of the ecosystems, social hierarchy and stratification, every socioeconomic racial fault line is being worsened in this moment. Black folks have been slowly dying for a long time based on a political carbon monoxide poisoning. And now it's just happening with a blunt tool and a club.
Boom. With a blunt tool and a club. That's how she put it. It is happening with a blunt tool and a club. You can almost feel the impact on the brain. You can almost feel it. So I close out with this particular clip because it was just so impactful as to what the information she brought to the table on this. And with that last clip, I stress again the importance of getting to know those that have the power to make new legislation that will make changes. If you are watching this video, then you can access your local government websites and find out who those individuals are. So I want to thank you for watching this series of videos, and please share with others so that they can get this information. I have another part of this that I will be doing. I kind of trailed into that, but it's going to be focused primarily on the state of Black businesses. And I'm going to be touching on things as the Black banks that are within our society. A lot of people aren't even aware of Black banks, the top 100 Black businesses, and how they're being impacted, as well as some suggestions on how we can help them and they can help us that are wanting to nip this in the butt, deal with it, and resolve it. So I'll thank you for watching. If you like, hit the like button, subscribe, share, and I will see you on the next series. Peace. Thanks for watching.